Joining me now, Nayyera Haq, former White House senior director and State Department spokesperson, and Ned Price, former CIA analyst, special assistant to President Obama, spokesperson, senior director of the National Security Council. Ned, let me start with you on this question of vetting. My understanding is that there are a bunch of vets that folks would go through to go into the White House. There's an FBI background check that is part of the clearance process. There's also just vetting that the staff does. Is it surprising to you that apparently General Flynn walked in the door with, as far as we can tell, zero?
Well, it's absolutely surprising, Chris, and frankly, I don't believe it. Look, I think you have to stop looking at these revelations about Michael Flynn in isolation. When you take a step back and you look at the totality of what we've learned about this individual in recent weeks, a very dark portrait emerges. We've had these potential violations of the Logan Act, a 18th century statute that makes it a crime to subvert U.S. policy. We've had his failure to register as a foreign agent, his lying to the vice president, and potentially even to FBI investigators. And then this strange kidnapping plot when he was working as a foreign agent on behalf of the Turkish government to abduct a U.S.-based Turkish cleric in the Poconos. So, look, when you add all of this up, is it possible that Michael Flynn just forgot or omitted this payment and this disclosure in his vetting and security clearance forms? Sure, it's possible. But is it likely? Absolutely not.
But there's also, Nayyera, it also strikes me, there's an affirmative. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the Obama administration watching the sort of, the wheels of the background check process sort of come alive. And it was remarkable how much work went into it, how it slowed the process, but how important everyone involved in that process took it as central to making sure the people that are going to be in the White House every day have been vetted, that their resumes have been checked, they are who they say they are, they've done what they say they've done. And I just have to wonder if that basic thing has happened here.
It doesn't seem to be, and actually it points to what we've all suspected, that this is an administration that was simply not prepared to run government. You don't have people in key positions at the Pentagon, at the State Department, and clearly vetting wasn't done for senior people who are in the White House. The process alone is pretty straightforward. Your security clearance does not go with you when you leave government. So if he left in August 2014, even if he re-upped it for a maximum of 2 years, that is August 2016, well into the campaign, plenty of time to say, okay, if we're looking at you to be the national security advisor, advising the president and everything from sanctions to human rights issues, that he should be reinvestigated, declare all of his payments. That should have been part of the conversation then. So what this points to is that the White House not only neglected the background briefing process, they probably gave him access to classified information he should not have had access to at this point. And that is probably why you have Sean Spicer at the podium bending over backwards to throw this on politically on President Obama, because this points to serious White House negligence of the lock him up type.
Well, and I would note the mishandling of classified information, that phrase has a kind of particular bite to it, given the last campaign. You're nodding your head, Ned. I mean, Michael Flynn's a person who said if I did one-tenth, I think was the line, 1/10 of what Hillary Clinton did, referring to her email server, I would be in jail. He was sitting in intelligence briefings. I mean, remember, he was in those briefings once the major parties have their nominees. They get versions of the presidential daily brief if they want it. He was in those briefings while he was taking money from the Turkish government to advocate for Turkish interests in ways presumably he could have traded on that information to further their interests.
Absolutely, Chris, and it sounds like, frankly, he did. If the stories about his involvement in this kidnapping plot against Fethullah Gulen, this Turkish-based cleric in the Poconos, are true, it certainly suggests that he was swayed by this Turkish money to take a policy position. He is also, as National Security Advisor designate, he was a key point person on the Raqqa campaign. And as you know, Chris, the Turks have objected vociferously to any plans to arm the Kurds, which Michael Flynn, by all accounts, objected to as well.
That is a great point. This incredibly fraught diplomatic negotiation about the Kurds and the YPG, who have been one of the best anti-ISIS fighting forces in existence, possibly the best, who the Turkey's very suspicious of, thinks are terrorists, etc. He's in the middle of all that, Nayyera, while this is all going on and into the new administration.
Right. He's not able to look at any of these issues, whether it's the counterterrorism challenge in Turkey or the certainly the issues going on with Russia in Crimea and elsewhere, their undermining of even the U.S. election and U.S. democracy. Michael Flynn is not able to look at that objectively when he is taking money from those governments. That is the entire point of having a FARA sign-up and also for having background investigations, so that you bring people into the process who are going to be helping the American public and putting the American public first. Flynn was compromised. I mean, maybe at some point he thought that confused the Russian engagement with what was supposed to be happening with the campaign, but certainly compromised to be a national security advisor.
Nayyera Haq and Ned Price, thanks to you both.